Step Cordova, creator of the Leicester equaliser. El Khanous, how much room does he have here? El Khanous going for goal, and he finds it as well. What a turnaround here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
4 minutes, Leicester have soaked up so much pressure. Fatawi jinking feet to get beyond his man, and the header from Jamie Vardy makes it 2.
Wood should score. Wood Knockout. Yes! Yes! Eric Knockout has done it.
Tielemans lining one up. What a goal! What a brilliant goal by Youri Tielemans! And the Leicester City fans go absolutely potty.
Ball in behind Damian Vardy. It's 11. It's heaven for Jamie Vardy. Hold the back page. Hold the front page. A Leicester player has smashed the record.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Blue Tinted Glasses. It's a nice Friday evening. The weather's lovely outside, but I am here with Mark to discuss all things Leicester City, Jamie Vardy, Ruud van Nistelrooy, the game on the weekend. We'll talk about it all. How are you doing, Mark?
Hey, buddy. How's it going? Happy Friday. Yeah, weather's good here too. Getting hot here.
Yeah.
It's the weekend, right?
Yeah, it looks nice. What time is it with you now? What time is it?
It's 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock in the US. Yeah.
Nice. Middle of the afternoon. Lovely stuff. Hello to everybody in the chat. Clibbo, hello to you, mate. Evening. Evening, Azola as well. Look, Mark, since we last spoke, since we were last live on the channel on Wednesday, we found out that this Sunday will be Jamie Vardy's last match in a Leicester City shirt. What do you make to it, mate? Because it's a decision that I think took people by surprise. We all just thought that, Bournemouth would be the last game of the season, but it looks like he's ending it at home in front of the KP. What do you make to the decision?
Yeah, you're right. It came sort of for us anyway out of the blue, right? But I feel the decision probably in house would have been made some time ago, or maybe some weeks ago, when he announced he was moving on. But yeah, I think he wants to do it under his own terms. And in the bigger picture, I think it's probably right, rather than it being an away game when he draws the curtain down on his last game, that it should be done in front of his home fans so he could get the reception as he well and truly deserves.
I feel like everyone's speaking about how it's almost like it was meant to be, because it's going to be his 500th Leicester game. He could get his 200th Leicester goal. It will be 13 years to the day. I don't know how old you were 13 years ago, Mark, but I was 13. I was 13 years old, the day he signed. And it just feels like it's all written in the stars that, hopefully, of course, that he can score that 200th goal on his 500th game.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something if he could do that? I mean, it's just all aligned, right? 500th game, if you could get 200 goals, his last appearance in a Leicester shirt. I mean, the only thing that would has spoiled it is that perfect fairy tale ending is the relegation, right? I mean, that kind of. But it is what it is. I think we all accepted that a long time ago now. So, rightly so. Sunday should all be about Mr. Vardy, JV9, and I think him being him, he's so laid back. He's going to be preparing for this game as any other game to go out there and win a game of football, right? But I think, and he's saying, he's not really affected him yet. Be preparing in the usual way, 6 Red Bulls before the game, whatever it is he drinks. But I think I got a feeling when he leads that team out, the reception is going to get, it might hit home, maybe, the realism that, wow, this is happening. It's maybe, but yeah, if he can get that 200th goal, I don't know, there's going to be carnage.
It will be carnage. It will, and with the decision, I mean, I've been watching his interviews and stuff that he's been given this week, and I think, you know, he said he's not really an emotional person. You know, it doesn't really affect him too much. And because I saw another video of Aaron Cresswell for West Ham. He's leaving there, and he was in tears. He was in floods of tears. And I just don't think that's what Jamie Vardy's like. But like you said, even last year, the last game of last season against Blackburn, where we didn't know if he was staying or going, so the crowd did the tifo for him on that occasion as well. And even then, he looked, you know, a little bit emotional coming out, because I don't think he even knew at the time whether he was staying or not at that point. But, you know, we all know now that this is the final hurrah. Like, this is it. You know, after Sunday, he's not playing again. But I want to ask you this, Mark, before we're going to bring up a bit of Van Nistelrooy's presser. But if he doesn't score his 200th goal, don't you think, you know, Jamie Vardy being Jamie Vardy and his competitive self, he'd be thinking,
In Bournemouth.
Mate, I mean, there's 90 minutes there he could try and get it.
Yeah, I mean, God, wouldn't it be tempting? I mean, I saw Ruud's press conference, and at the end, you know, he was sort of saying, you know, yeah, of course we need him. That's the decision he's made, but do we need him for Bournemouth? You're always going to say you need Jamie Vardy, right? Yeah, it's like, I agree. If that game at Ipswich finishes and he's not got that 200, it almost feels like unfinished business, right? It's
yeah, somebody said he'll come out to the Undertaker music from WWE. Well, I mean, people in the chat, let us know. Put in the live chat whether you think Vardy would maybe change his mind and play that 501st game to try and get his 200th goal. Right, we're going to just bring this up now from BBC Sport Leicester, and they were reporting, of course, on the press conference. So let's zoom in a little bit. Here we go. So Van Nistelrooy started by confirming he has no fresh injury concerns, because there was actually concern about Vardy. I think he picked up a knock in that last game and against Forest, and there was a little bit of worry that he, you know, imagine that if he got injured and he couldn't play, but he will be fit. He also says the positive news is that Ricardo could return against Ipswich on Sunday. I mean, let's talk about this first of all, Mark. Ricardo Pereira, because I think last season we thought, wow, we've got a new Ricardo here, no injuries, he played pretty much every game. But this season, it's just been so hit and miss with him, hasn't it? Like, I think he didn't play the first 12 games because Steve Cooper didn't pick him. And then he came into the team for a little bit under Ruud, and then he got injured, and then he's come back and played 1 or 2 games, and then injured again. Is very much that is the Ricardo that we've had since his injuries, his bad injury.
As far as I can remember, it's like normal business has resumed with him, right, this season in terms of his injuries, and it's so frustrating because he's a hell of a player. I mean, we all know that, you know. God, I think in fairness, if he'd have maintained fitness over the years with us, a bigger club would have probably come in and taken him, right, 2-3 seasons ago. But yeah, it's his fitness that it's just, and it for the guy himself, I feel for him because you can't imagine the turmoil he's gone through, you know, physically and mentally with his constant injuries. You know, he gets fit again, gets back in, can't get a run of games, then another injury hits. You know, like next season, how much will he be utilised there? It's such a long season. You know, it's amazing, isn't it? So it's it's hard for the guy.
I remember when he got injured, it was the last game before COVID, literally the last game, and it was at the King Power against Villa, and I think we won 4-0. And it was Jack Grealish, actually, just a bit of a 50-50. Grealish, Ricardo ended up obviously worse for wear, and it was his ACL. And it's ever since then, really, that he's really struggled. It was his ACL, and then he came back, and I think someone did his Achilles, and he's really struggled. But before that injury, mate, I was saying, like, he is the top 3, if not the best right back in the Premier League. Like, how he was performing. The level he was at that time, like probably from when, just as Puel was leaving to then Rodgers coming in, he was unplayable. And, you know, it's such a shame because he was at his peak. He was at the peak of his powers, and obviously the injury hit. So it's gutting that he's not reached that again since, and he probably never will now. He's 32, 31 now.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think to get the best out of him, or maybe have some longevity in his career with this, he needs to play that, where when in possession, he moves into midfield. So again, it needs a manager. Well, I think any manager will understand that, right? He's not got the legs for a fullback, wingback, unfortunately, and that he's gonna get injured again.
We have seen Ruud as well, try that inverted fullback once or twice with JJ. So clearly, I think Ruud probably would have done it more often if he had Ricardo available. But he's obviously he's barely had him available to play. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So
Ruud will be here next year. So.
Do you not? I mean, we've been having this debate. I mean, I've got a bet with Luke that if he goes, I have to sit on stream and eat a ghost chili pepper or something, whatever it is.
Is that right?
Because I'm saying I'm confident he's going to stay. And the reason I'm confident he'll stay is because he's only got a year left. And I can't see anyone buying him.
No.
So I'm thinking they'll just run his contract down, potentially.
Yeah. There's no one's going to come in for him. I mean, not going to pay anything on his wages. I mean, he's not going to say it must. I don't know what wages he's on, but
I'd imagine comparing them to the likes of JJ, for example, he's probably a lot higher. Going back to the press conference. So where are we? There we are. So as you'd imagine, the bulk of the press conference was focused on Jamie Vardy's final game. So Ruud said, when you see the amount of time a player is performing at the highest level, that's the biggest achievement. When you've performed 13 seasons at this level, coming up to 500 games, 200 goals, that says it all. The standards you set yourself, you live your life around football and how you perform. Then you look at the trophies he won, the individual achievements. It's the total package for one of the greatest. This is why I think he gets the name, the GOAT, Mark, because I keep saying this, but if you were to say who is the best footballer that's ever played for Leicester, I don't think it is Jamie Vardy. I think you're looking at Riyad Mahrez, for example. Riyad Mahrez or, N'Golo Kante, let's say. But Jamie Vardy was more loyal than anyone ever was, and he stuck around through the bad times. We even got relegated. I'm sure he could have left that season and gone to got a decent team then. But he stuck with us the whole time, and he scored all those goals, and he won all them trophies, and he got his individual accolades, the record, of course, that he beat, and also the Golden Boot. He won a Golden Boot. He got his England call-ups. He did it all for Leicester, which is why he's the greatest.
Yeah, no, without doubt. Yeah, like you said, technically, ability-wise, obviously, you wouldn't put him up there, but it goes way beyond that, right? The 13 years he's been here and I think he's a working class guy. Yes. I think that's the fans can relate to him, right? And I think that will always go so far in terms of who you've got up there, but what is achieved and is a one-off, right? With a character and as a character to boot, and you don't get that nowadays in football. So he's the kind of player, if he's in your team, when he's giving all the away fans, his shithousery is. We all love that, right? That adds even more to him. But yeah, it's the kind of player. If it's the opposition team, you can hate him, right? But there's not going to be another player like this. Certainly, I don't think. I'm pretty much confident in my lifetime that for Leicester, for what he's done, everything he's achieved, what he's given to the club, his loyalty, rumours of Arsenal coming in from that time, turn them down.
Confirmed by Arsene Wenger himself that he offered him a lot of money as well. He offered him a lot of money and he said no.
So, and you don't get that loyalty nowadays. It's so. I think even for me, like I said earlier, it's like when it was announced, it was like, oh well, the day was coming. But I think as we get close to Sunday and we see it's like, oh shit, this really is the end. It's like, don't want to. And
I think he is one of them as well that, I think a lot. I don't want to say taken for granted because he hasn't been. We've celebrated him for years and years. But I'm saying that if he goes through a little dry patch, we always say stuff like, we need a striker who's able to, compete with Vardy. We need a backup to Vardy, or we need somebody who's better than Vardy. But Like, there never has been anyone. You know, we've signed the likes of Islam Slimani for 30 million. We signed Kelechi Iheanacho for 25 million. We signed Tom Cannon for 9 million, who's now already gone after a year. You know, we signed all these strikers, and
Daka.
none of them have got that. Oh God, yeah.
Won't
Forgive
mention
me.
him,
Forgive me for
Oh, now
forgive
you
me
got
for
that one,
forgetting
Knox.
him. Yeah. But I mean, Anil said it the other night, over 100 million pounds worth of strikers, and none of them have been able to touch him, and that just shows how good he's been.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, right? I think I mentioned on the last call, one door closes, another opens, but
yes,
it's like, okay, now we need someone to fill his boots, right? That's the worrying thing. But I mean, the day has been coming. I mean, there's been many people's views on, okay, his legs have gone or whatever. It's probably some of his pace, but he's still got that killer's instinct in front of goal for the most part. I mean, and I was watching something just before we came on here, actually. I was watching, I don't know if you saw it, he did an interview with Martin Tyler.
Yes.
Just watching that. Yeah, the first time I got to see it. That was a good watch. And he was saying, even now, his fitness, his test on all the fitness is the same numbers as it was 10 years ago, which is remarkable, really. So it just shows.
And he played more games this season than like in all of the other Premier League. I mean, he's played nearly every game this season. It's nuts.
Yeah. It's crazy. So that's why I think he can still do a job for someone. And I think I saw it. He doesn't want to play for anyone in the Championship. I don't know if that's true, but So he's obviously looking for a mid-lower table Prem or I don't know, MLS.
I'm convinced. I think he should go to the MLS personally. I don't want to see him in the Prem. I know that sounds selfish, but
yeah, it's going to be weird, wouldn't it? Seeing him,
it would be very weird.
Any shirt he wears, it's going to be just like horrible.
But I feel like, without trying to disrespect the MLS, without trying to disrespect the MLS, I wouldn't care so much. But seeing him in any of them teams like Wolves, Palace, Leeds, definitely not Leeds, please. Man United, Tottenham, I don't know. It would. I think it would hurt me a little bit.
I mean, the MLS is terrible, but let's not. It almost feels like you can't finish your career at the MLS. I mean, I know, Messi and all those are coming here. I mean, that's still ridiculous to me that he's playing, but that's another story. But I don't know. He could do so much better just to see, but he'll go, rightly so. He needs one. He deserves one big payday somewhere else. So wherever that will be, what's best for him and his family, he deserves it.
Well, that's it. If the situation is that we're not giving him the big payday, then I suppose fair enough. Off you, you know what I mean? He's gonna. Yeah. Okay, so bring in the press conference back up here. So Vardy's final game on Sunday marks 13 years since he first arrived at the club. It will also be his 500th game with the aim of scoring his 200th goal. There's many dates and numbers coming together, but the way I know him, he'll come in and do his best to try and win the game. That's what he'll think about. That's his aim. If that comes with a goal for him or an assist, that's how he'll think. He was obviously asked about how he's been preparing. So Ruud said nothing different. He's preparing to win the game on Sunday. That's what he does. He's been so good over so many years because he's of that mindset. He's not been bothered with criticism or praise. He's thinking of performing. There's nothing different about how he is around the place. We haven't seen any other Jamie Vardy than we've ever seen. And I love that. And I suppose that's one good thing about, his mentality, Mark, on all the good things that we talk about. He doesn't really, he won't want to make this all about himself, even though it is all about him. It is absolutely, this game is all about Jamie Vardy. Yeah. But I don't think he'll want any of that. He'll want to go out there and just try and win the game. And of course, he wants to score the 200th goal, but that will help us win the game, obviously.
Yeah. None of that what said in the press conference, or what Ruud said is any surprise, right? We all know at this point what kind of guy he is. He's a team player. He doesn't. We all like recognition, right? And but he doesn't go out there looking for it. He just wants to get over that line, do his business on the pitch, and then come off. And as he said in that interview, he likes to chill with his family and just relax. So nothing surprises me there. He just wants to get the job done. To him, it's another another game. That's what he's saying. Again, go back to what I said. I think maybe once he realizes he goes out for that 500th time, or maybe at the end of it when he's getting, I don't know what the club have planned for him, or
they're doing a TIFA. They've organised a stadium-wide display before the game. It's for him to walk out onto the pitch. So that'll be there from
I wonder if they'll send him out on his own or do any guard of honour for him or anything.
I would imagine he's going to be pulled off about 70, 80 minutes, or 85. Maybe he lasts longer. Maybe if he needs a goal, he'll stay on as long. But I think normally with these types of things, you do have the substitution, because then it allows him to walk off to the whole stadium, just, obviously an applause, and maybe a guard of honour. I mean, I remember Didier Drogba had something like that at Chelsea, and the players actually, players on the pitch came off and did guard of honour. And I think, his stature in the game, everyone's aware of what he means to Leicester. So I think, that will be fine with the Ipswich players and the officials. I don't think there'll be any issues there. I think they'll make a big thing of it, and rightly so. Although I don't think Ipswich will allow him to just run through on goal and score the 200. That would be nice.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. That'd be nice. Can you imagine?
I think you probably get in trouble for that, match fixing and all that.
Yeah. One of my mates said, "Can you imagine? God forbid he goes and pulls his hammy in the second minute or something."
Oh,
don't even put that out there, right? But he's not. You can count the amount of injuries he's had on one hand, can't you? So he's. I don't think there's any issues there.
Yeah, it'd be as long as he doesn't get a penalty and miss it like he did against Wolves. That would be enough. I mean, if I'm the Ipswich keeper in that situation and Vardy's got a penalty, I'm just not going to dive. I'll just, I won't dive for it. I'll just stay down the middle. Yeah, exactly.
The pens that Vardy's taken where he's just hammered it, they're the best ones.
Yeah.
I don't know why he tried. I don't know that. I mean, that one at Wolves was terrible. But just hammer it.
Yeah. No, 100%. Richard says Vardy's been great, no doubt, but the doubt is our future. Yeah, don't worry. We're going to talk about that soon. Just quickly now, finally on Vardy from the press conference. So Ruud van Nistelrooy says he's been a great captain, supportive since my arrival. For the 6 months we've been working together, it's been tough, it's been rough, but he's always been a great leader, wanting to impress and take responsibility. So he's the captain that you want. I mean, on this, Mark, there's been stories in the past where Vardy has allegedly played a part in managers losing their job. He was allegedly, I should keep saying, he was allegedly a part of a group that outed Claudio Ranieri less than a year after we won the Premier League. He was definitely a part of the group that wanted Claude Puel out. There's no secrets there. He was, it was quite obvious with that one. But what I did hear, because people speculated that Vardy would have been first trying to get Cooper out the door. But from what I've heard from someone who's fairly reliable, he says that Vardy never did that at all with Cooper. He was supportive of Cooper and he seems supportive of Ruud. And maybe he's just matured as a player, Mark, in that dressing room, not trying to do that type of stuff. Because we heard last season as well under Enzo Maresca that there was a meeting that took place. And the meeting was basically Vardy kicking up all the players up the backside and saying, look, this ain't good enough. We went 17 points clear at one point and we're playing like shit now, basically. We need to sort this out. And so there's no doubt that he is the biggest character in that dressing room now, especially considering we've lost Schmeichel and Wes Morgan and people like that. He'll be the biggest character.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think he's probably always been a big character in the dressing room, but I think it's transitioned over the years. So, in the early days, he was probably more one of the lads, the joker. He's still a joke. You can see that even when you see clips in training, he's always laughing and joking, got a smile on his face. But I think over the years, like you said, his experience has made him, he's matured him and he's mellowed out. And he's now, that character is still a joker and brings a lot to the dressing room in terms of that aspect. But he is more of a spokesperson to bridge probably between, the manager and which is why we see him as the captain, right? Because he's got that experience now, so he's brought all of that together to the Jamie Vardy we see now.
And I think he's probably because he's not. I've always said this. He's not really a captain on the pitch, in my opinion. Right. And I don't think he wants to be either, because we quite often see players like Ricardo, Harry Winks, having the armband instead of Vardy even when they're playing. And going back a bit further, it was always, Tielemans and Maddison would always have the armband over Vardy. So I don't think he necessarily is a great leader on the pitch, but I mean, there's no doubt, I think, in the back. And I would say as well, he's an idol for the younger players, because anyone over a certain age, probably over the age of, I don't know, anyone over the age of probably 15, which is what Monger is, they will know the Vardy story and the Leicester story from 2016. And I mean, I remember the Ruud van Nistelrooy's first game, West Ham, where Vardy scored. Bilal El Khanous played him through, and they did the interview together after the game. And Bilal was wearing Vardy socks, and they were chatting. And Bilal was, the way he spoke about Vardy was like, he kind of like looked up to him and was like, "Oh my God, I'm playing with Jamie Vardy," that type of thing. So that is important as well to have in the dressing room with the likes of Jeremy Monger, let's say, a young lad coming through, looking at Vardy as someone who's achieved everything really that he can do in the English game with a smaller club like Leicester.
Yeah, and just thinking about that, as you said, that makes me realise Monger was 2. So Monger was 2 when Vardy came to Leicester. That's scary.
Crazy.
But yeah, no, for sure. And that, you're right. He's an idol to so many people. And, that's why, I mean, we know now it's not happening. So it's kind of pointless bringing it up. But I just wish he had flat out retired at Leicester. So Leicester was his last club, and he could have then stayed on in some capacity. Who knows? Down the line, he may come back. He may have a couple of years somewhere, and then the club, you would hope, will find some capacity for him to come back at. Purely because of what he represents to the club, and what an aura, for any youngster coming through, any forwards that he can pass, that his expertise and tips onto. So I would really hope that it's not the end for Jamie Vardy at Leicester in terms of longer term. That he's just going to see out his last year or two, get a nice payday somewhere else, score a few more goals, which is what he does best, and then now come back home and where you belong.
It'd be interesting to see what role he does have beyond his football career, because it's like,
we don't see him as a manager, do we?
I can't see him as a manager, and honestly, I can't see him as a pundit, because I think he's too like jovial. He's not serious. He's never
even
serious.
When you listen to him in interviews, you're just like, I don't know. Yeah, you see, whereas some are quite natural how they speak, right? You're like, oh yeah.
Like Maddison and Cody, for example.
Cody. I mean, he should definitely be either a coach or a media. I mean, they talk a great game. Yeah. Whereas it's just so down to earth, right? It's just one of the lads. It's just like, so yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe he doesn't want any of that. Maybe he'll just want to get, do his family stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe he will just disappear. Maybe he will just disappear into the sunset and open up. I mean, there's always been a joke about Vardy running a bar in Ibiza because, I think he actually said it. He said when he first signed, when he was playing for Fleetwood, he was interviewed and he was like, if this season don't work out, I'm going to go and be a club rep in Ibiza. He said something like that. So you could see him doing maybe working alongside Wayne Lineker in Ibiza. But a couple comments from Ipswich fans actually. Rob says, I feel Vardy will get a good reception from the town fans on Sunday. We have a lot of respect for him and his achievements. And then also a tractor kit, Kerno Tractor Boy. I lived in Leicester Forest East in the O'Neill era and went to Phillip Street a number of times. However, being an Ipswich Town fan, as long as we are 3 up, Vardy can have his 200th. There we go. Tony. Yeah, very. Tony Smith says Vardy is irreplaceable. Going to be a great day Sunday, but sad knowing we are going to struggle without him. And also just quickly on what we were saying about like him and Ruud, maybe because it's always seemed, Mark, that he's kind of been a bit of a voice between the squad and the owner, Top. And maybe Vardy will have, a goodbye recommendation for whether Ruud should stay or go? I mean, he's probably already given that recommendation, but I'm sure.
I was going to say, yeah,
I'm sure Top would have asked him. I'm sure he would have been asked.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, but more likely what you just said is that conversation's probably already happened. He's let him know probably a few games ago, but whether that's changed now is, given we're improving slightly. I mean, doesn't take much doing though, given the season we've had. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. They would have a word in his ear, or just
because usually when you go through such a bad run of form over so long, like we did, the manager loses the dressing room, eventually. But from speakers like Rob Tanner, for example, of course, Ruud has lost a couple of players, Yannick Vestergaard and Harry Winks, but in the large part, they do seem to be on board with him, which still concerns me a little bit about next season, whether Ruud will be here. But we're gonna talk about Ruud. So if I bring up the here we go. Where is it? Let me bring this up. Actually, before I do that, let me bring this up. So what do you make to this, Mark? A bit of news today, because there's comments in the chat asking about it. Ben Nelson. I don't know if you've seen this. Chelsea are interested in Ben Nelson. So the rumor has it. Oh, that's true. The rumors are, Mark, that Chelsea are very much interested in Ben Nelson, and they could make a move for him this summer. What do you make to that?
I hadn't seen that. I hadn't seen that. That's the first time I'm hearing of that. I'd be surprised at that. I mean, he's had a reasonable, decent season by all accounts at Oxford. And the games he's played, I think he had a bit of an injury and then came back into the side. I don't know. I'd be surprised at that at this point if there's any, if that comes to anything. I think I'm excited to get him back here next season. He should be one of the first players on the team sheet for next season, centre back. Get him in the team. I think he needs another full season in the Championship, so he can stay injury free. But I don't know. I'd be amazed if there's any if that comes to anything.
Well, he's had a good season at Oxford, and one thing that we do know is that Enzo Maresca does like him because
yeah, that's true.
Last season, Connor Cody, I think Ben Nelson was preferred over Connor Cody. When we did have injuries and suspensions to Vestergaard or Fass, I think Ben Nelson was the man that Enzo eventually preferred. And so he's aware of him. But, I mean, if you're Ben Nelson, Mark, you've got to just look at the likes of Danny Drinkwater and Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall's slightly different. He's played more, than Drinkwater. Dewsbury-Hall's featured quite a bit in the European games, and he's played well. He scored a couple goals. But he's never going to be a starter there. And surely at 22 years old, 21 years old, Ben Nelson, you've got to think, all right, I'll stick around a bit longer. Because if he stays next season, he plays 46 games in the Championship, which I could see him doing, his stock's going to be much higher after that, especially if we get promoted, and he could demand more money on a contract with Leicester, or he could get, he could have a wider range of choices for where to go, basically, in the future.
Yeah. I don't know. How long has he got left on his contract? Any idea?
I will find out. I think
yeah,
he's still
but yeah, why is she doing that? Yeah, I agree, and that's a good point about Maresca, but it's just the same. If he goes to any of those top clubs, be it Chelsea or any other sort of top six, yeah, it's just going to, especially with the squad Chelsea have got. I mean, they've got a ridiculous amount of players already in the squad. He's not going to get a look in, is he? And it was similar to what we on our call earlier in the week about Mongo. You go to someone like Man City, you're going to get a handful of minutes during the season, and you're just going to drown within the squad. You're not going to get a look in.
Decision to make, but
no.
I just checked 2027, so 2 years. So 2 years left.
Okay. So yeah, we're soon at the point where we're going to need to get him tied down, right, to another 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was just looking his his estimated market value right now is £500,000, but I'm sure that's, it should be more than that with the potential he's got. And, Oxford United fans have been speaking so highly about him. I mean, they were proper going off about him a few weeks ago, saying that he's like John Stones-esque, a young John Stones, and saying that there's people who, so some of them thought that, no problems, he'll play for England, in a few years. And, especially with our problems at defence, Mark, and with the likes of Yannick Vestergaard, who is looking once again for the third time in his short stay that, he should be leaving. And Wout Faes, I think everyone expects to leave this summer, and I think everybody wants him to go. We're going to have a gap. We're going to need to fill those centre-back spots.
Exactly.
Maybe Connor Cody's one of them, but Ben Nelson is the future. And I think that's, that he should be, like you said, the first one in there.
Yeah, there's a natural gateway now for him to come back to the club. Maybe if we'd got 2 or 3 established, say Okoli. I mean, Okoli's not really had the chance. I still stand by that. I still like to see more of him, and I think he could do a job for us. Him and Nelson. But if we'd had, we've been chopping and changing right all season with the centre back. So I think if he was looking at it, it would be coming back anyway. But if we'd got 2 established centre backs, he'd probably be thinking, how much am I going to get again? Should I look for another loan move out for another season? What's my future going to look like? But him and his agent must be seeing now that, look, you got a perfect chance. You go back next season, you're going to be in the team. It looks to be a given. I mean, if it's not, there's something wrong if that's not the case.
PSR maybe it might be tempting because it will be pure profit. If they can get, I don't know, what would you say he's worth now? 15 million?
Yeah. 15 tops, I would say. He's had one, good, decent season in the Championship, but I think he needs to do it for another season, right? And at the top end of the Championship, and then into the Prem, get his fee up to more like 20 million. But then, like you said, then his stock's only going to rise if we can get into the Prem, and then he starts to show, what he's about. Because he will be then 25, 26. Did you say he's 24 now? Is he? 24?
No. He's younger. He's 20. He's 21.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 21.
Well, there you go.
He's only just turned 21 as well. Only just.
Well, yeah, it's a PSR. Yeah, I see what you're saying with that then. But let's hope that's not the case.
That's what I'm saying. Let's say 15 now. A year in the Championship, as we saw with Dewsbury Hall, you could be looking at 30 in a year's time.
If he's one of the outstanding performers in the Championship, his stock will rise, and then you're looking 25, 30 million maybe.
Yeah,
and that's when 100%. You could believe when the clubs will come circling around, sniffing around, and they're sick of being Chelsea's feeder club. That's what it seems like.
Yeah. I mean, Enzo Maresca, obviously that he took Dewsbury Hall, but I still think that was. I think that was a mutual decision for PSR. This is my concern again.
Yeah.
If you've got somebody who you can get 15 million for pure profit, then it might be tempting for the club. But I think from what I've seen online, it's an outstanding keep, online from Leicester fans. Do not let him go. Hopefully the club listen to that. Just more on today. So there was an article by John Percy. So he said that Ruud has spoken to the board about the strength of the club's academy and how talented teenagers such as Monga and Evans will be key players in the future. Since that day, there has been silence. Van Nistelrooy has no idea whether he will remain in charge. And I did see another thing that said that Ruud has already put forward his case for why he should stay. So he's already done what he's needed to do and given the club basically a breakdown of why he thinks he's the best man, and he's not heard a word from the club. I mean, what do you make this, Mark? Because I'm kind of in the middle here, right? I'm either thinking that they're sounding out, that they're speaking to other managers, maybe, putting the feelers out, maybe interviewing and things like that, whatever. Or it could be that they just don't have a clue. They just don't have a clue on what they're going to do next. And I think that is the more likely, to be honest.
I think there's a couple of things. I mean, firstly, I think, let's be honest. We don't know, right? We can only surmise and guess. But I even think that when I was listening to the, and I'm a cynical person anyway, but when I was listening to the press conference and he was saying, "Yeah, still no update," I don't know. I'm like, I wonder if behind the scenes it's all been agreed. They do know what they're doing, but they're like, "Look, we've got to keep it under wraps until the end of the season, just because it's, the media will get on the bandwagon and jump, So that, I don't know, possibly unlikely, but I wouldn't put it past them that when he's speaking to the media, he's been like, "Look, just keep it. You don't know anything. Play that line, that story." But I think more realistically is that, they're doing their due diligence and they truly don't know which way to go. They're probably swaying towards letting him go. But now, I mean, despite how horrendous he's been, I think he's handled himself well. I think he speaks a good game. In terms of the media, when I say he's handled himself well, not necessarily with some of his man management, or certainly with some of his substitutes, his decisions with the team. So I don't want to get those too confused. But so I don't know. I think they truly, who knows? It's scary to think what Rudkin and Top might do, right? Going on past.
Do you think? Because we've had three good results, and when I say the three, I mean Brighton. We drew 2-2. We beat Southampton, and we drew to Forest. And we've got Ipswich coming up this weekend, and if I had to put money on a result, I would probably say a Leicester win, if I'm honest. Right now, I'm feeling slightly more confident after the last couple of results. Do you think that the last two results will affect their decision? Because if so, that concerns me. Obviously you've been on a few shows recently. You know my feelings on this, that when it mattered, they didn't perform and he couldn't get anything out of them. And now it's all done and dusted. They're performing. But would it concern you if they make their mind up on what happens now, or do you think that's fair? That if he can get a couple good performances out of them the last two games, that maybe that should go in his favour?
No, absolutely. I think regardless of what decision they make, it scares me because of the decisions that have been made over the last year or two. The whole management of the club, top to bottom. But I think I don't know. I think if they go and get a win against Ipswich, and then it could go either way, right? That could go in his favour, and then other fans. I've definitely seen more of a turn in some of the comments, where it's like, and that scares me too. Where because I said a few calls back, one of the weekly calls, that in any form of 17 defeats or whatever, no wins in 17, no manager would keep their job. It's just untenable, right? He has kept his job, and maybe it was because okay, we can't afford to sack him. We bring someone now in for 15 games. We're already pretty much relegated. Then we bring someone else in. So I can see why they've kept him. So I can see that side of it. But yeah, it does concern me. Going back to your question, that if we now go and beat Ipswich, that'd be. Yeah, there's an upward curve in terms of performance, but why is it taking this long to get them running? Okay, you'll put it perhaps some of it down to they weren't fit and whatever, But we shall see. But it's going to be interesting. But I think whatever decision they make, it's huge and it's scary. I mean, I think as a fan with ourselves, I think we're on the same page that we still think he should go. But I've got a feeling he will be here next season.
I mean, James asked, do you think the players back the manager? When we sacked Cooper, there were reports flooding social media that there was no backing from the players. I mean, James, I don't know if you saw it. We did a video with Rob Tanner a few weeks ago, and he seems pretty adamant that the majority of the squad are behind Ruud van Nistelrooy, and they have from day one. But I agree, Mark. How do you go 17 games, without a win? And you don't score a home goal in 147 days, how do you go? Like, if we weren't under scrutiny for PSR, I think he would have been sacked in March, to be honest. But they didn't want to sack him because they'd already paid out Steve Cooper this season, however many million that was. They don't want to then go and pay another manager out because obviously that will go against the PSR. I think if it wasn't for that, I think he would have gone.
They were backed into a corner with that, weren't they? Because of the finances. And I think as well that Ruud was somewhat fortunate that all of the fans' frustration and was towards Rudkin, right? So, he's the one getting, whereas normally it would be the manager, right? So the shouts from the crowd would be Ruud out, and all. It would have got sort of horrible towards him. So, but the focus has always been on Rudkin, understandably. So it's kind of taken some of the pressure off the manager.
There's been too many, how many games, Mark, were we just we saw Ayew and Bobby Reid and Vardy, that front three with a combined age of 102 or whatever it is, not scoring goals. And then again next week, same front three, that happened so many times where you just think, what are you seeing? If we can all see it.
To watch.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. And, I'm not Mavridi's biggest fan, mate, but at some point you have to try somebody else. And, you've got a fast winger there who performed last season, one of the best wingers and one of the best players in the league last season, the championship. And he's not getting a kick or he's not getting a start. I just feel like there was way too many, and then he went to the back five, but playing Luke Thomas as a left centre back, and he did that for 4 games, and we lost 4-0 with 5 at the back, and it's what is going on here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean by some of the crazy decisions. I mean, I always think the fans are the ones that see it clearly, right? I mean, that they'll argue that, well, we're not, that's why they're the manager and we're not. But your team, right? Some things seem so clear cut and so obvious, but when some of the decisions he's been making, I mean, that's. And I go back again. So even with those horrendous decisions, a lot of it, and then if we're not getting the results, the fans' fury would normally have been aimed towards the manager. But again, it's diverted towards Rudkin. That's why I said it's not like the norm circumstance of how he's kept his job.
And on that same topic about, John Percy said this, I think, though, but this weekend, it's the last home game, and it is a distraction. The Vardy stuff is a distraction once again from the Rudkin stuff, because everyone's talking about Vardy, and they have been really since he announced he was leaving, I think that's helped the pressure slightly that's been on the board because not as many people are talking about it. I mean, there's a comment here from Paul. If Top came out, held his hands up and said, we've messed up the season, he would get a bit of credit, but no, silence. And he did actually say he did a statement actually, Mark, in one of the match programs. And he said, we thought we had the quality to stay up, but we didn't.
But who thought it?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Did
they purposely not? Because we're all under the impression that the reason we didn't sign anyone in January, right, was because of PSR. Maybe that's the thought. But did they just not think they need? Did they not think they needed to strengthen? Surely you could see that we needed to strengthen.
Yeah, and what day you've just seen the last two seasons, the top 3 that go up come back down. So exactly. What does that tell you? Even if you're not even a football fan. It tells you the 3 teams going up are not strong enough squad-wise, or they have the quality, right? So, okay, you have to invest. Yeah, this group of players has got you up, and some should deserve the recognition and the chance to show their worth. But you've got to then top that up, just to even be anywhere close to trying to bridge the gap, that huge gap between the Championship and the Premier League.
I mean, Conscious has said the issue with Ruud is that he stuck to his failed guns when it mattered, but as soon as we got relegated, he capitulated and played up to the crowd. Monga, he is a coward and has no conviction. I mean, this is one thing that is true, Mark, is that he stuck to his guns for so long while we were still mathematically safe, or not safe, but still in with the shout. And then, it's kind of like, it's not until we got relegated where he did kind of take the shackles off. And, for me, it's been quite clear that since relegation, we have played more of a attacking game, if that makes sense. We do seem to be more, we seem to be going out there with more of an attacking mentality now. So that would suggest to me that maybe it was Ruud that had the shackles on the players for that, for that run of games.
Yeah, because time after time, it was clear as day, right? We needed to change. It was clearly, even after 5 or 6 games, you'd think that, but not when you're getting into 10, 15, 17 games. In what world? You've got to, I don't know. So I agree. I think it could be a mixture. It could be like now we're down, the players are just playing with more freedom in general. But I definitely think that, since relegation was confirmed and he keeps spouting on about, okay, now we're planning for next season. We've got to prepare for the players that we have. And but then he still went and started to decade overread that time, which you think, well, so he says one thing. And I agree with some of the comments. Yeah, I feel like, is he just being told to play these youngsters rather than him thinking he really wants to? Just to,
well, the fans are telling him, that's for sure.
Exactly, to appease the fans. And so the owner's like, just give them what they want, which, you wouldn't put it past him. So just taking an easy way out. It's just like a token appearance here and there. So then he can come into the press conferences like he did today, said, oh, yeah, I'm giving them appearances. Monga's had 5 appearances, but Evans, I'm like, well, Evans has had like 30 seconds and, Golding the same. So you can't, can't really class that those as appearances. But, I mean, how great would it be on Saturday? This is not going to happen, but if he started Monga, Vardy, give Evans like 30 minutes, it's regardless of what the score is, it doesn't matter.
I would love a Monga start. Yeah, I would absolutely love a Monga start, but I fear that it probably won't happen. You're right. Yeah, I think it will be very similar to what we saw last time out. I think it will be Ayew, El Canu. I mean, you saw what Facundo did when he came off the bench against Forest. I don't think he'll start, to be honest. I think he'll probably just go unchanged and just make those changes later on again, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm torn with Buonanotte because I kind of, everything I've been saying, then I sound like a hypocrite because I say, well, we should give him a start, right? Because he's not going to be here next season. So it's kind of a wasted. But then you're like, at least he's got the potential to get you off your seat, right? But I think he really should play. If you think at the stadiums, with everything going on with Vardy, it's going to be, regardless of relegation, it's going to be upbeat. It's going to seem like a surreal atmosphere. To have Monga start, that's going to just increase it even more. But I don't know. They see a different side, right? It'd be Ayew, which, to be fair, Ayew didn't have a bad first half at Forest, in my opinion. But again, you know what he can do at this point, right? So you've got nothing to gain in him starting. It's the last home game. Let's just go out with it, with some fresh blood. It's like they're like a breath of fresh air with thinking what they could do next season if we can hold on to them.
Yeah, 100%. Quick last couple of comments here. Paul says, there is no doubt Ruud will be staying. I honestly believe that there are no funds to terminate his contract, even if they wanted to. James says, I don't think our management have the balls to own up and admit defeat, given their status at the club has been under fire for a couple of seasons now. I mean, this is what frustrates me a little bit, because like Top could get a quick win with the fans if he made a change. When I say a change, I mean Rodkin. If he made that, if he pulled the trigger on John Rodkin. And when I say that, I think we've said recently that he doesn't even need to sack him. Move him. Move him to a different role. Bring in people that really know football, know what they're talking about, know what they're doing in that role. Because, on our show the other day when we were talking about like the power, how much power should be given to a manager, because like they've been given quite a lot of power in the past. Like Brendan Rodgers had a lot of power at the football club. Steve Cooper went and splashed 80 million on crap. And, all you need is a good structure above the manager, and you can succeed. And we just don't have that. Ours is outdated. It's what we had 10 years ago, which of course worked well 10 years ago, but we're not in 2016 anymore, right? We're in 2025, and you see all these other clubs that have literally leapfrogged us. Brentford, Brighton, they have leapfrogged us in the space of like 3 years. We just don't seem to adapt to the times, and that's a big concern. But look, we'll have to wait and see. We've got 2 games left. This Sunday, of course, like we said, is the end of Jamie Vardy. This is the last time we will see him. So let's end it on this, Mark. Score prediction, and will Jamie Vardy score?
Oh, how can I say no? I've got to be up roll, but yes, he will. And I think 2-0 City.
2-0. Okay. I'm going to say, that would be great. That would be brilliant. Sweet. Yeah. Passing on the torch.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. I'm going to say 2-1, and I think Vardy will score both, and he won't end on the very aesthetically pleasing 500 goals. He'll end on 501, and that'll be it. Yeah, 501 and out. There we go.
Yours is probably more realistic, actually, because we're not going to get a clean sheet, are we? So.
Well, yeah, there we go. Azola reckons 3-1. Obviously, we'll get some score predictions because we're back on Sunday morning for Good Morning Foxes before the game. And Neil and Kate and Manny, I think, will be there, so we'll get their score predictions at that point. James says Ipswich will get a player sent off and a Leicester penalty awarded. I don't think any of us care how he gets the goal. Just get it somehow. Bounce off his arse or something. Do you know what I mean? It'd be the perfect way. To end off. But lovely stuff. Mark, thank you for joining me on this Friday. Well, not evening for you. It's Friday afternoon. So yeah, much appreciated. We'll get you on again soon, hopefully. And this time next week we'll be talking about Vardy's 200 goals, not 501. Sorry, 201. Yeah, I said sorry. He's not going to score 400. He's not going to score 300 goals.
499.
Yeah. All right, Mark. Thank you so much, mate.
Cheers,
Thanks
mate.
to everybody in the chat. Much appreciated. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to hit subscribe, and we will see you on Sunday morning at 9:30. Bye-bye.